All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome in, and this is one of the biggest videos that I do in the year. This is one that I'm proud of. I really appreciate you guys tuning in for it. This is the roster construction and salary cap special. This is where I go over everything. I did part one as kind of a precursor, so this one wouldn't be so long. This is still going to be long, not like hours long. This is not like a full-on like podcast, like interviews and stuff. This will be an hour-long video. Where this goes over everything with the roster and the construction of the salary cap and a deep understanding of it. And I'm going to show you guys, like I promised, the Excel spreadsheet that I create for this each year, and I will update it as we go through the offseason. Not to kind of put the cart before the horse, but this will be a go-to spot for you guys to be able to look at the salary cap and get a real look at it. This is the same thing I did last year. It just the channel wasn't very big at that point, and it gives a realistic view to those who need an understanding of the salary cap and really want a real source, because how do things change with the 51-man salary cap allocation, or how does it change when it goes to 90-man, or where are our dead cap, where are our cuts, and where are the players and how much did they account for in that, and which guys are going to count against the cap and which ones don't count against the cap. All those things will be answered in here, and all those things will be shown as we go through the offseason as well. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into the current roster construction. And one of the first things I look at as I'm trying to rebuild the roster, I try to put myself in GM shoes. What would I do if I were Ryan Poles? Where would I be at? And they have a lot more information than we do, obviously. So they have a lot more intel. One of the things about roster decisions that I look at is the previous rookie draft classes and where they stand now, how they've performed, which ones I consider cutting, which ones are worth cutting, which ones are worth keeping. And almost always, without fail, your recent draft class is going to be all safe, because usually they're developmental, or you're just working with them, or there was a reason you took them. Your 6th, 7th rounders, those are a different story. Sometimes those guys don't even make it out of your initial 90-man camp because they're flyers. They're just prospects. They're guys that have an opportunity to make your roster. So right off the bat, these guys, though, they were all that category. I mean, you look at you got 2 first-round picks, and they were, studs, stars. They were guys meant to be changing your franchise. You're not getting rid of them. I know a lot of you might not be happy with Karan Amagaji. I get that, but he was meant to be a developmental swing tackle, starting tackle in the future type of thing. He was not meant to start or play year one. So if that was your mindset going into this, saying he's a developmental guy that we need to work with, build his base, get him some technique, get him healthy, then you're not getting rid of him in year 2. So he's safe. In my opinion, he's safe. Torrey Taylor took a punter in the 4th round. You're not cutting punter in the 4th round, and he did a good job. So he's safe. Austin Booker, same thing. Many projected him to be a potential 3rd-round pick in this 2025 NFL draft. Thought he should stay in college, continue to develop, build some, put some more weight on. See, one of the reasons he might not have stayed is he knew what was coming out this next year. A team was going to be able to develop him. So that's what they've done this year. And I would like to see him get in the weight room, be that Jervon Dexter type of transformational year. I'd like to see that, because Austin Booker has all the tools. He has the bend. He has the get off. He has quickness. He has the Energizer Bunny, where he stays with every play and doesn't stop on a single play. Austin Booker is that type of guy. So we're not cutting him either. He's developmental. He's safe in my opinion. All right, we're moving me all over the place. I do this in many of my videos. You guys will know that as you watch more and more. And I'm going to, just pause right there and just say thank you for all of you guys tuning in. We're literally hitting 10,000 subscribers right now. This is not something I expected after a year and 2 months of making videos. You kind of put your projections out there. You kind of just start this as a fun thing because you want to share some things with people that you feel like you have some decent insight with, and you want to be a part of this Bears community. And that's how this thing started. I kind of had some different takes from, your mainstream guys, and I felt like I was a free thinker who did my own analysis. So I kind of wanted, and it caught fire. So I know some of my takes haven't been right. And I know sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes other places are wrong. But I want to say thank you as we hit that 10,000 mark. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, you guys are absolutely phenomenal. This has been a fun experience. So anyways, 2023, let's go back another year. And let's look at the 2023 draft class. Obviously, we took Darnell Wright at the beginning. And I'm going to show here this orange. This is a good sign. All these orange a year later. These guys were all on the 53-man roster. Now, we didn't have the most wins, so is it necessarily a great thing? Well, most of them produced pretty freaking well. A couple of them are gone right off the bat. Travis Bell, who I believe he went to Atlanta first. Then he's with the Vikings on their practice squad. Now he's signed a future reserve again to stay with them, so he's with the Vikings. Kendall Williamson, who I liked as a safety, but we've had a loaded safety room. He's ended up with the Chargers at this point now, so he's over there. So those are the ones that are gone. And now this is what I put here. 53-man roster was an impact player. Darnell Wright, I don't think anybody can dispute he was an impact player. Jervon Dexter, same thing. Tyreek Stevenson, when he's not got his head up his butt and when he's playing at his best, man, he ended 2023 as one of the best corners in the league. He was locked down, and teams started picking on him. They started seeing some weaknesses. He can't keep his separation rates are not good. So it's going to be interesting to see, how a new coaching staff comes in and works with him because he's got a little bit of a head, but he hits so freaking hard. Could he be shifted to safety? Probably, and that's what I've said a couple times on here. So he's not a player you're getting rid of for sure. Zach Pickens, absolute regression, the opposite of Jervon Dexter. Both of them taken very similar places in the draft. Obviously, 11 spaces apart, pick 53, pick 64. And Zach Pickens had not a good first year and then an even worse second year. So it makes you worry where he's headed, whether he's worth keeping on the team, and I'll show that in a minute. You got Roschon Johnson, who had a bigger role and really stepped into that role, so I don't think there's any shot Roschon Johnson's gone. Tyler Scott, question mark's probably the most fitting thing for him because it looked like he had a decent preseason. Whether what's going on behind the scenes, whether he's just not an impact player in practice, whether he's not getting separation, whatever's going on, he's not making himself known on the field. He should be questionable for the future as well. I don't think he's someone we get rid of, Tyler Scott, especially with our wide receiver room. At worst, he'd probably be our wide receiver 5. But this is going to be a big year for Tyler Scott. This will be a make it or break it year for him. Noah Sewell, another one that I was decently high on, especially with the family pedigree with his two brothers in the NFL, Penei Sewell being the most famous one, who's one of the best at his position in the league. Both brothers doing well in the league, though, but he had a really, really regressed year. Really didn't get used a lot, and when he did not play well on special teams or on defense. So not a good sign there for Noah Sewell. And Terrell Smith, one of the best values, in my opinion, pick 165 right before the 6th round, right before the end of the 5th round. And to me, has played as valuable, or if not even more than Tyreek Stevenson. When he's gotten his opportunities, he stays hip to hip. He doesn't hit as hard as Tyreek Stevenson, but his coverage grades are equally, if not better. We've got two really good options here at cornerback, and it'll be interesting to see how the new regime uses both of them. Dennis Allen. Being able to use them, he does less zone than we did with Eberflus, so there will be more man-to-man. So there may be an opportunity here for Terrell Smith to get his opportunity to shine. All right, so make me small again and put me down in the corner here. We'll put Adam in the corner, and we'll look at some of the things that I'm looking at these guys moving forward. Do we want to keep them? And with Tyler Scott, I'll start with him in the middle because he did show a small improvement, but his snaps were significantly reduced. So 2023 is offensive grade. This is PFF grades. I know they aren't the end-all, be-all, but it does give you a good basis. So if we're just looking at a 10,000-foot level here, we're not looking at, we're not doing an entire video here on every single breakdown of every player going in depth. So we have a 4-hour-long video. We're just going to look at a surface level here. His grade did go up, but, man, significantly less snaps. 436 snaps on offense in 2023. 2024, only 20 snaps, but his grade was better on those. Special teams grade, though, where a lot of these guys, if they're not getting their starts, if they're not getting their snaps on the offense or defense, are they valuable on the special teams? So in 2023, only had 35 special team snaps, 57.8 grade. 2024, 67 grade, which is really good on special teams. So we like to see that, 55 snaps. So there is some improvement there. I don't see us getting rid of Tyler Scott. I don't see that happening. Noah Sewell, though, 2023 defensive grade, 27 snaps and 86.5 grade. Looked really good. Looked like, the limited snaps he got might be indicative of him being a player that could break out. You combine that with a special team grade of 83.8 on 269 snaps. We had someone that I was hyped about Well, you look at this year, only 5 snaps on defense, 30.8 grade, one big blunder in the game. 2024 special team grade, 65.4 on 141 snaps, so very mediocre, trending in the very wrong direction. Same with Zach Pickens. Here's some of my biggest things with him. A lot of snaps his first year, 264, defensive grade of 54.9, regressed. You guys know my general analysis of the team. When looking at a 10,000-foot level, anything below 50 is cut-worthy in my opinion. Now, if you're on a rookie contract or a second-year contract, that's a different story. Maybe you're going to continue to work and develop with these guys. 50 to 60, you really need to be working your butt off to save your spot on the team. It's not working out. 60 to 70, you're doing good. Is there a better player that could, fill your spot, or is there something you can do to improve from there? We'll see. 70 and above, those are your starters. 80 and above are your impact players, your players that are going to be the ones that you rely on for the team to be able to grow with. Zach Pickens is not showing any of those things. He's headed down the wrong path for me. 2023, his pressure rate, this is the PRP, his pressure rate was 3.3, so he did improve in his pressures, and his win rate improved, so he did show improvement in year 2. But his tackling, he did improve on his missed tackling, but his depth of tackling, 4.4 is not good. That's how many yards someone gains before you tackle. So he might not be missing the tackles, but the depth of tackling got worse. And he's not a dominating presence. So more than anything, the tape with him, he just doesn't look like a dominating presence on defense. He's not blowing anyone back. He's not stopping anyone. He's not shedding through the blocks. And when he is getting to someone, it's usually, 4 yards past the line of scrimmage. He's not stopping him behind the line of scrimmage. So all 3 of these are cut options for the Bears. As you look at the impact that the contracts would have on them, you see over here, if we cut Zach Pickens, we would save $970. So you basically save a minimum contract for someone else. Dead cap would be $595, which isn't the worst in the world. You could extend it out to the post 6-1 release and release him after 6-1 just to save $200. That's chump change to save. I don't see the Bears saving any of these guys past. That's what you would do with a bigger contract like Eddie Jackson last year or something like that, where you're trying to save more for the future, trying to delay some of that dead cap. And each of these are similar. This is 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round picks. You can see how the dead cap just goes down, as they're a later round pick. 595, 331, 162. So options that could be cut for the Bears. Here's where we look at them, where they sit on the roster spots. So to me, Zach Pickens is one of those that could be, because I'm not sitting him anywhere in my primary rotation. I am not comfortable with Zach Pickens with how he's played, being that backup 3-tech to Gervon Dexter. It was not good last year, and I don't see it being good moving forward. So those who aren't familiar with this, who are new to the channel, this is something I just refined for this year. I had the same type of graph for last year. This is our defensive line unit. These are the guys here. These are our primaries and our backups. This is other depth, because on the defensive line, you're going to want 9-10 guys more than any other position. That in the offensive line, you're going to need depth with guys. These are your future reserve contracts. We will update this as the season goes along. Jamari Croma is the only future reserve on the defensive line we've signed so far. These are all our free agents. The green means an unrestricted free agent. They can sign anywhere they want to. Byron Cowart, Jacob Martin, Darrell Taylor. These 2 actually played pretty decently for us. I can see them getting contracts somewhere and not wanting to stay with the Bears. I can see the Bears, if they don't get a huge contract somewhere, signing one of these guys to a $3 or $4 million contract. I can see that. But is he going to take the space of someone we want as an impact player? Is Jacob Martin an impact player? Is Darrell Taylor, is he an impact player to be a starter? I don't see it that way. I can see more of the draft happening here. And these guys, to me, are expendable at this point. So these are your unrestricted free agents. These are your restricted free agents. Chris Williams, we have the rights to retain him if we want to. We can match any offer that's given to him. And the exclusive right free agents are Daniel Hardy and Jonathan Ford. That means they haven't put enough service time in the league. The Bears can retain them on a league minimum contract. Basically, just giving them an extension to a rookie contract is what an exclusive right free agent really is. So that's where we stand with these guys. That's where Zach Pickens would stand for the Bears. So I would be comfortable cutting Zach Pickens if we have better options. It's just whether the new coaches come in and say, hey, we see some value here. Zach Pickens was highly regarded in the draft in 2023. We see something we can pull out of him. We're going to work with him for 1 more year. kind of where I saw Dominic Robinson last year. Last year I said this about Dominic Robinson. Is the coaching staff going to think they can pull something out of him? And Dominic Robinson, to be fair, had a decent year, but it's really that third or fourth string guy down the depth chart. You're never going to play him. Is he worth, or is there another roster spot we want to bring someone in, to develop, to be able to, or pick high in the draft to rotate in? Is there options there? So it'll be interesting to see what the Bears do there. So next up, we got wide receivers. You can see we're missing 2 there. Could we cut Gerald Everett? That's tight end. Let's not focus there right now. But here's your unrestricted free agents. You got DeAndre Carter, Keenan Allen, Simba Webster, and Colin Johnson. Some of those are options to come back in future reserve. We got Samari Torrey and John Jackson. Is Tyler Scott safe? Probably. In my book, he's probably safe. There's things that they can do with him, and he's got good speed. And then you've got the linebackers and nickelbacks. Sorry for the ding. Linebackers and nickelbacks for Noah Sewell. Are we going to retain Jack Sanborn? Carl Jones is on a future reserve. Here's a restricted free agent, Jack Sanborn. And Amen Ogbongbemiga is our unrestricted free agent. Do we re-sign him? These things will determine how things go as we move into the future. All right, now the last 2 on our rookie contracts. I'm going to do both of these at the same time. You had your 2022 class and your 2021 class. A lot of them are already gone, so it's going to be easier to do both them. So we'll do them at the same time. The ones that were on the 53-man roster, though, you got Kyler Gordon. This was actually a pretty decent draft for the Bears, minus the Velus Jones. I know I was high on Velus Jones. I admit his speed is what I wanted. I liked his blazing speed. It was a lot of fun, but just too many muffs. Everyone knows the story there. Zachary Thomas, we didn't give enough time. He was gone. Treston Ebner just didn't work out. Tyree Carter, we let go of this last year. Trenton Gill, when we got our new punter, got rid of Trenton Gill. Now, he's no longer on the Buccaneers, but that's where he was at the end of last year. And Elijah Hicks is kind of the steal of this draft as far as value of where you picked them up in the 7th round near the very end of the draft. What he's been for the Bears, very, very solid for the Bears there. So Kyler Gordon, I don't see having any issue being a problem. He's an impact player, and he should be extended. Jaquan Brisker, man, can he stay healthy? Be interesting to see what happens. He's on Twitter nonstop. He's clearly under the belief that he's going to be 100% and that he's back, baby. So impact player when he plays. Has he earned an extension yet? No, this will be one of those big years for him. But he's not down at the level like Zach Pickens. He's got to prove himself this year, though. So this will be a big year for him. Braxton Jones, top 14 left tackle in the league. Very good. Not good enough to be your staple, extension. We're going to tag him next year. We're going to make him the future. This will be a big year for him, too, where he has to prove himself. But I don't see any reason with how well he played that he wouldn't be the left tackle this year. But you definitely want to bring in some competition to be able to compete against him. I've already mentioned Dominic Robinson. Just hasn't panned out, hasn't been but look at where these picks were taken. We had 2 round 2s, 1 round 3. We didn't have a first rounder, no round 4, and then it was 5th, 6th, 6th, 7th. This was the master class of Ryan Poles trading to try to get value just to build a roster. Now, some of them worked out, some of them didn't work out, some of them lasted longer than we thought. Tyree Carter probably shouldn't have lasted as long as he did. We cut Doug Kramer several times. So you see the FA, free agent, because he was cut from his rookie contract, he was re-signed. We have an exclusive right to him. He's on the roster, but he's not got his rookie contract, his 4-year rookie contract. He's basically year to year. This is how you want to consider it at this point. So that's where these guys stand. But we had 4 impact guys in a draft where we were really picking majority of these guys round 5 on. So having 4 impact players, that's actually a pretty freaking good draft, in my opinion. They did a really good job. Limited opportunities, having Ryan Pace before this regime. Trading a lot of that away, trying to buy a championship, which you do in certain windows, and you do if you feel like you're there, but we really weren't quite there, and it just didn't quite pan out the way we hoped it would. We never had the quarterback. Now we kind of have hope that we do have the quarterback, so we'll see how that pans out as we move forward. Then you move into 2021, the famous one for Justin Fields. We traded quite a bit away to get him, which included 2022's first-round pick. But no longer on the team with the Steelers. Khalil Herbert was traded midseason. He was no longer on the team. He was with the Bengals. Thomas Graham, he's on the practice squad for the Steelers. And then Kyrie's Tonga, who I thought was actually developing really well, has kind of regressed this last couple years. last year especially. And not bad. I mean, for a 7th rounder, he's actually done very well. The Bears gave up on him very, very early and didn't have good nose tackle. I mean, so he would have been better than many options we've gone through the last couple of years, but we just kind of gave up on him too early. And he's with the Cardinals now. So Daz Newsome is in the CFL Saskatchewan Roughriders, I think, off the top of my head. He's no longer in the lead. These guys are all off the team, the X's. The only one left, Tevin Jenkins. I mean, he was. He's a free agent. And Larry Borum, free agent as well. But he was an impact player. So Tevin Jenkins was an impact player. Missed probably 20 to 25% of his snaps. So that's rough. What will happen with him, we'll find out. But these guys were on the 53-man roster this last year. One of them never should have been. Larry Borum is one that I kept saying had no business being on the team before this last year. I would say that. So, but you see, round 1, round 2, then you had round 5, 6, 6, 6, 7. Same thing as the year after that, 2022. So a couple years here, we had the same thing where we're trying to bargain bin shop and see what we can build from a roster from there. But same thing, let's break this down. We got Dominic Robinson, Tevin Jenkins, Larry Borum. There's no way I'm re-signing Larry Borum after these last 2 years. 411 snaps, 48 grade. 2024, 329 snaps, 58th grade. 7 sacks given up in some of the least amount of snaps. Absolute liability. Now, he started off pretty good, which is why a lot of people defended him. And I was high on him in 2023, thinking he could be a good swing tackle, thinking he could come around. But before last season, I said that experiment is done. I saw enough with those 411 snaps that I was done with that BS. And we kept him around, and now there's no way that we re-signed Larry Borum. That just can't happen. Tevin Jenkins, consistently in the top of the league as far as guard play, but you see the snaps. You want, your 1,030 is what Coleman Shelton, our Iron Man this year, who missed no snaps this year. 1,030 is what snaps he took. You can see 738, 731 the year before, 576, which wasn't the entire story there. That wasn't all just injury, but these last 2 years missing 300 snaps because of injury. That's 30% of snaps. That's impactful. If you have a Larry Borum or a Jatiri Carter behind you or Jake Curhan, it's not going to end well in those scenarios. But it's one of the highest grades, one of the best players, really good at run blocking, good at pass pro. Probably not the best at pass pro, but really good at pass pro. Worth retaining at the right value. So we'll see what happens there. Dominic Robinson, 2022, 45.9 grade. The most snaps, we were kind of hoping we had something in him. 2023, less snaps, really bad. This year, even less snaps, but played a little bit better. 2024, his PRP was 4.4, which is really bad for a defensive end. That's a low pressure rate. He's not getting any pressure. Good win rate, but he's not turning them into pressures. So 14.7 is a decent win rate. Average depth of tackle, though, is one of the worst things. I mean, is the worst on the team, worst on our team, and one of the worst in the league. 7.4 average depth of tackle. He's just not. He's not there. He's not in on the play. He's coming from behind on the play. He's catching things after they're done. He's not winning against all of his blocks, and so he's not getting there. And 7 yards per play for his tackles. That's where he's catching it. That's not good. Missed tackle rate low, so that's good. But I don't see us retaining Dominic. I would think he would be a cut candidate this year. So here's where some of those cut candidate situations stand. If we cut, remember he's from the this shouldn't be 2023. Let's cover that up just so I don't have to go fix it. 2022 class, Dominic Robinson, you can see we'd save $1.1 million and only have dead cap of $68,000. That's worth it. Look at Tevin Jenkins from PFF. They say he's worth $13.3 million average. Spotrac says he's worth $10.3 million average. If the Bears can sign him somewhere in there at $12 million, I think that's a value contract for how well he plays. But you really have to focus in the draft to be able to pick him up and have a good quality guy behind him, in my opinion. We have the salary cap to do it. It's not worse than a Nate Davis contract to sign, and we signed Nate Davis to 3 years, $30 million. We can sign Tevin Jenkins to 3 years, 33, 36, 39 million. I'm actually really good with that. I wouldn't like the guaranteed numbers they're showing here of 24 million. I'd rather have it be about half the contract, but that's typically not how they work. Those contracts don't work that way. So it would go a long ways for the guys, for the team to see us retain our own guys too. It does mean a lot for the locker room and for the guys. So that would go a long ways. That would be a good thing. So we'd have to see what transpires there. Okay, where do these guys line up? And then I'm going to get into the Excel spreadsheet and show you guys where we actually stand. And then at the end of this, I'll show kind of my analysis of where the team stands and why I think we would pick the picks where we are. But you look at this, we go back to this, and here's Dominic Robinson, not an impact player, not one of your main rotational guys. You don't want him in there ahead of DeMarcus Walker. You don't want him in there ahead of Austin Booker. You don't want him starting. So Dominic Robinson to me is expendable. So that's number one. And then as we cruise along here, number two, let's look right here. Larry Borum. So here's our offensive line, guys. You got Larry Borum again down here. So the two we just talked about, and Tevin Jenkins. So Tevin Jenkins, Larry Borum, Jake Curran, Matt Pryor, Coleman Shelton, all unrestricted free agents. They could all fit in. With the needs we have, Tevin Jenkins would be nice to bring back on a value contract. Now, this isn't about Coleman Shelton right now, but if you're going to want to bring all these positions back, Coleman Shelton would fit really well right there as a backup center, competing for the starting job, maybe starting the year, a rookie coming in, developing afterwards. But I don't see a world where we keep Larry Borum. I can't see that happening at all. He doesn't fit as sweet. I don't even think he's better than Karan Amagaji. That's saying a lot. So that is saying quite a bit. That he's not better than Karan Amagaji. So that's where we stand right with those guys with the current roster. Now let's look at let's pull this up. Hold on, let's pull this up. So I've showed you guys this on the other spot. This is just a brief explanation of the salary cap. I'm going to pull open and pull me off screen and just kind of explain my method to my madness here. All right, so I am going to bring up the trusty Excel sheet. This is the nerdy stuff that I do, but I think it's going to be valuable, and I think a lot of you guys will appreciate this. So I am going to post this actually to Twitter for those who want to be able to get a copy of this. It's just an Excel format. I created it. This is my own masterpiece, my own evil doing. But it breaks down the current roster cap figures, and I will update this as we go throughout this offseason. Obviously, the biggest dates are going to be here as we get to March 10th, as we get into free agency, as the signings occur, as this roster starts to get built, and then as we move into the draft and we see the draft order and what happens there. But I've broken it down by each position, and then you see the green. These are positions that are kind of our dire needs. Over here is the count of how many we have on the roster, okay? And I'm not counting these orange ones because these are really your reserve contracts, guys that are meant to be competition for practice squad, competition for the 90-man roster. And a lot of this is based off of my opinion, okay? So this isn't like set in stone gospel, but I try to keep it as realistic and really down to earth as I can. These ones are needs. You'll see a count number next to guys that I think are pretty much locks to be on the roster in 2025. So that's how I signify this. DeAndre Swift should be a lock. Roshan Johnson, lock. Ian Wheeler should be a lock from everything we said. Now, that could be wrong. This is probably the most speculative one on my part. So these ones that are on the 53 are not on the... Now, okay, so I got to backtrack a little bit here. Doesn't count on the 51. So the NFL has a rule as we get to 90-man camp. It's called the rule of 51, basically. Only 51 players count against your salary cap. That way you can have up to 90 players without having problems. Then you got to cut down to your 53, and all 53 will count for the salary cap. And then you've got to account for your practice squad players who are going to roughly make $250,000 a year. So those 16 will account for $4 million when it comes time for the season. So you're going to have your 53 plus another $4 million, and that's how this is going to work. So these guys, I'm not counting towards the 51 right now because they're not really part of the construction. If you look on Spotrac, if you look on the sites that show the current salary cap, well, because we only have 34 total guys under contract, and then you add these ones that are practice squad players, then you've got 40-something. We're still under the 51, so they're all counting right now when they necessarily shouldn't all count. So as you look at my formulas here, you see this is just these two. The ones that are on the count will count against the salary cap. Same over here. These all count, but there's nothing there in that cell. Then as we go down to wide receivers, same thing. Samori Torrey, John Jackson, they're not counting because they aren't necessarily going to be on the squad this year. All right, so I think that's a basic understanding. These, don't worry about these for now. This is just future contracts. This is their 2026, 2027, how they're going to make, how much they're going to make. Is their future status restricted, free agent, and then exclusive rights, free agent, or rights free agent, however you want to say it, but they're restricted to our team if we want to keep them. Same thing there, except we can get them on a league minimum contract. So we go through here, you can see all the different positions, and there are question marks on some of these, like Gerald Everett. Is our new team, is Ben Johnson going to want to ride with Gerald Everett, or are we going to break this contract down? It's $5.5 million we'd save, $1 million to the dead cap if he thinks there's a better option at tight end we can get. We've signed 2 to the future reserves. So there are some options here that the Bears have, some directions they could go with all this. And then we look at the offensive line. This is where it's most decimated. This is why everybody says we have to go trenches. We got to go with the offensive line. Well, there's a lot of things that could happen in free agency. So when anybody says they know what's going to happen, no one knows what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen. In fact, we could cut Ryan Bates and be in an even deeper hole. We could have lots of issues as we head towards that. I mean, there could be a lot of things that come to fruition here. So as we look over the initial, you can see on the side here's kind of the ticker, 11, 12, 13, 14 guys under contract. Montez Sweat, 15. And then we've got a couple holes here we need to fill. Marcus Walker, Austin Booker. So some of these guys, and some of these guys could be cut as well. Dominique Robinson, Andrew Billings. No, he won't be cut. Zach Pickens, Dominique Robinson could both be cut. So we get down here, Noah Sewell could be cut. We'll go over that. But so here we are, probably the most short up position. Oops, I have a couple cells hidden. Let me unhide those. Boop. All right, so one of the most short up areas is probably our secondary, but we still need a couple players there too. I probably should have added a couple spots because we usually go into the season with 10. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'll add that for the next spot here. But this is where we stand. Here's the dead cap prior. Adjusted caps around 2.7 or 275 million. No new debt additions yet. Rookie pool will be about 14 million. Practice squad's going to be about 4 million. So you're going to see our actual salary cap is going to be 55,279,000 available to spend in free agency. So that's where we stand now. Here's your dead cap. If anybody's wondering where our current dead cap sits, that's where that 2.385 million comes from right here. That's these players. We cut Nate Davis last year. Then a lot of these were, rookie contracts, undrafted free agents where we gave them a bonus. When you cut them, you have to still pay them. That's a dead cap for the future. So that's where the cap stands right now before we do any speculation. So this is where we sit with the current roster. Here's the 34 we have under contract right now. Let's go into the individual spots where the free agents are. I'll roll through that quick, and then I'm going to get into, again, with the Excel spreadsheet, kind of some of the key spots where we can re-sign guys, where we can get guys on the exclusive right free agency, where we can get the value contracts, and maybe some of the bigger names we should go for. They have mentioned that this might be a year to go big game hunting. So let's look at that real quick. Number one, here's our offensive line. You can see the big gaps here. This is why there's so much need to go after the offensive line in free agency and in the draft. Our future reserves, Theo Benedict, Ricky Stromberg, Chris Glazer, and Joshua Mills. For free agents, we've got Coleman Shelton, Matt Pryor, Jake Kierhan, Larry Borum, and Tevin Jenkins as unrestricted free agents. Doug Kramer as restricted free agent. Bill Murray as a exclusive right guy, which is a perfect fit for us. You'll see that here in a second. Here's the contracts to these guys. 2024, the 90-man roster, 16. This is what I went through in the previous video, so I'm just going to run through these quickly. We'll update this as we get closer to actual signings and time for the Bears to be constructing the 90-man roster. We'll update all this to be new for the new year, but just to give you an idea, we ran with 16 guys. Right now, we're sitting with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ryan Bates, really good cut candidate, $4 million. Basically medically retired, in my opinion. And Karan Amagachi, really the bottom of the list. He should be number 10 as far as our 53-man roster, number 10, developing, not having an opportunity to play on the field. Next, you got our backfield quarterbacks and running backs. You can see Travis Homer and Darrington Evans are our unrestricted free agents. I don't know why some people have him counting against the salary cap right now. It doesn't make sense. When you hear some creators or some people talking about cutting some more people, Travis Homer he's an unrestricted free agent. He's not counting against the cap right now, so it makes no sense what they're saying there. But these are the guys we do have under contract. These are the actual contract guys. Austin Reed is a future reserve guy, so that's where we stand with those ones. You saw we took 4 quarterbacks and 6 running backs into 90-man camp last year. Move on to receivers and tight ends. Gerald Everett, a prime candidate to cut for his if we have a better option. If not, maybe the new regime wants to take him. Kind of beating that dead horse now, but here's our wide receivers. DeAndre Carter, Nsimba Webster, Colin Johnson, and Keenan Allen are all unrestricted. Mercedes Lewis, Steven Carlson, all unrestricted. Future reserve, we signed Jordan Murray and Joel Wilson just within the last month. John Jackson, Samari Torre are retained on future reserve contracts. So here's their contracts now. That's where they stand. We took 10 wide receivers into camp last year. We took 6 tight ends. It'll probably be similar numbers to those in this next year. Defensive line, this is where we stand. We need some help here. We need to really solidify this. None of these guys are terrible. DeMarcus Walker, if we can find a better, if we really shore up the defensive line, say we get Khalil Mack, the rumor, and then we want to draft a defensive end because it's such a good draft class. I've done this twice now. Dang it. I need to change that. I apologize, guys. That's not Montez Sweat. I haven't changed this slide since last time, and I should have remembered to do it, and I didn't. Anyways, Montez Sweat, I love you, buddy. That's a poor thing on my part, poor editing, but I will get it fixed eventually. If we want to move on from DeMarcus Walker, then we move on from DeMarcus Walker, and we draft a high defensive end to develop behind Montez Sweat and Khalil Mack and alongside Austin Booker, or start one and rotate in with these guys. Obviously, DJ Moore would be a terrible defensive end, so good option to draft one there. My bad, guys. Darrell Taylor, Jacob Martin, Byron Cowart are the ones that are your unrestricted free agents. These 3 right here are your defensive ends. These 3 here are your defensive tackles. So Daniel Hardy, Jonathan Ford, exclusive rights to them. Daniel Hardy actually played phenomenal. His average depth of target was negative. So his depth of tackling, average tackle was behind the line of scrimmage. So he had a great preseason too. I think he was misused. He was not handled properly. He was not played enough. So I would love to see Daniel Hardy retained, but kind of over in one of these spots. Take Dominique Robinson's spot and cut Dominique Robinson. That's just a person. We're getting into the speculation now part of the video where I'm going to give a few speculations, but I think Daniel Hardy would be great and awesome on special teams as well. So move forward just a little bit more here. Linebackers, nickelbacks, those guys in the box. Are we going to retain Jack Sanborn? Are we going to retain Amen Ogbongbemiga? Josh Blackwell? All 3 of those I think are prime candidates to be retained and have them stay on the team. Noah Sewell, probably a better candidate to cut at this point. I would rather keep these guys than Noah Sewell with how he played this last year. Just personal preference, though. But we took 9 linebackers into the camp last year. We took 3. Man, losing Reddy Stewart was just a boneheaded move by the Bears. I really like him. Would have been nice to retain him on our squad, but nonetheless, we have not. And then for safeties, cornerbacks, we have 7 we took last year into camp and 8 safeties we took into camp right now. We're pretty solidified here. Jalen Jones would be the one that I would think we would match an offer and fill that last spot. He was worth it. Tavarius Moore, Adrian Colbert, both unrestricted. Doug Coleman, Amir Speed, both exclusive right. And even as exclusive right, we could sign Douglas Coleman and just have him, cut him at 53-man cutdown time and sign him back to the practice squad. That happens too, even if you do sign an exclusive right. Alex Cook is the one we signed to a future reserve contract. Don't overlook him. Looks pretty promising as well. So last but not least, we've got our punter, kicker, long snapper. There are people too. Scott Daly, Patrick Scales. Patrick Scales will be more expensive with his service time. He's getting older. He's mid-30s. Scott Daly would be less expensive. So unless there's a preference by the coaching staff, we just have to see what happens. And that kind of shows our needs over here. Let me jump in again to the Excel spreadsheet and show you guys some hypothetical of what this team would look like if we signed some of the common sense ones with a couple of the big names that are included as well. And really kind of show in there why the defensive line might be the priority in a class that is considered the defensive line class. The defensive tackles, defensive ends, kind of the bigger names in this class. And if we really hit free agency the way that people expect us to, it kind of works. Let me show you. So again, we take me off screen. All right, so let's get into our hypothesizing, what we like to do on this channel. I'm going to go through the entire roster, kind of where I see things now. I'm not going to do a mock draft with this, but I'm going to kind of show why there could be so many different reasonings to where things could be. And we'll look at this roster construction and how it will affect the draft. So the way I've laid it out here, you can already see, spoiler alert. Some of the most key spots, these blue ones are going to be ones where the Bears have an opportunity to re-sign them. And it's kind of the most no-brainer ones to me. A lot of people don't agree with this one right here. I understand if you don't. Drew Dahlman has a lot of high upside and appeal. To me, the salary cap is so valuable, you've got to re-sign Coleman Shelton and then draft a center as a priority need, one of your top 4 needs here. You can see how I've ranked them after my free agency, after my re-signings, what I've declared them as. This would be my priority need. Now, some of you are going to say, how do you not have offensive line first? Well, let me just run up to the offensive line, and you can see where my offensive line stands after I've done my, kind of priority where the Bears should go with this. You look, Braxton Jones is going to roll into this year as the starting left tackle. I get that a lot of people don't love that either. Darnell Wright has proven himself. Coleman Shelton re-signed. Tevin Jenkins is going to be, as we showed, somewhere around, 10, 12, 13 million. And I think that's value for Tevin. He has played 700 snaps a year. It also is very important to get this starting rotational guy for all 3 of these. The depth has been the Bears' biggest issue. So getting a starting quality center in the draft, getting a starting quality guard in the draft, getting a starting quality tackle, swing tackle in the draft is going to be very imperative for the Bears to be able to have depth. Because if you run with Braxton Jones, Darnell Wright, Coleman Shelton, Tevin Jenkins, Trey Smith, it's probably pretty solid. In fact, I would like to draft a center, take a couple of interior offensive linemen in this draft that can compete with Coleman, and hopefully one of them could beat him out. Take one in the 2nd round, take one in the 3rd round that you're really, really high on. You feel like could be Zach Frazier. I'm not in the analysis room where we're, going through all these guys, but from what I've seen, there's not someone quite to his standard. But if you're taking some of these tackles and you can shift them in like Graham Barton last year, there might be someone that could beat Coleman Shelton out. So you take Coleman Shelton, you shift him down here to a rotational, quality backup type guy. Having these quality backups, and I think everyone would agree at least Coleman's a quality backup. He was 10th best center in the league for starters this last year, so at least he should be a starter, a backup quality, top of the league backup quality starter center, in my opinion. This is my opinion, but so either way, I think that's a good contract with where he stands, and he may earn more than $5 million. So let me go up here from the top. Okay, so here's the count where we need to be. So by the time we're done, we need to have our 50-man roster, 51, 52-man roster, not counting these guys, okay? Not counting your guys that are your, practice squad, your future reserve contracts. We're not counting those, okay? So all the way down here, we get to 52. Now, that 53 could be anything on any given day. Maybe we bring Austin Reed in as number 53, which a lot of teams do for a 3-man. It could be an extra offensive lineman, could be an extra running back, could be an extra wide receiver, a 6th wide receiver instead of 5 wide receivers. Could be several things. So I limit it to 52 so we're not putting ourselves in a box. But only 51 count against the cap anyways. So that's not going to kill us here, okay? So, and here's where our count stands after I get done with my free agency, which leaves us at 39, needing at least 12, 13, 14 more. And if you go down to the bottom here, you'll see once we're all done, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then you can sign, this is through the draft or free agency. You can see best available free agent or draft. And these are players like at linebacker. Maybe Amen Ogbongbemiga would be a good option to sign at $2 million to be able to bring him back in. Maybe, a Darrell Taylor would be cheap enough, or someone like that, just in that ballpark that we've already talked about. So these blue ones are ones the Bears re-sign. Orange ones are key free agency, and this is just some of the names that are talked about and some of the ones that I like. No one else has really talked about Luke Farrell. That's one I brought up. I just think he's a great blocking tight end. But then here's some of your key cut trade candidates that we have reviewed. So Gerald Everett, if the new regime wants to come in with their new stuff and say, okay, that's only a $1 million dead cap, and we're going to go in the draft to develop another tight end, we sign Luke Farrell here, $2.5 million. We save $5.5 million there, and we go draft a tight end. That's a net savings. Gerald Everett can go sign somewhere else. Now, maybe there's a trade value as well. So these aren't just cut. Maybe we could garner, out of these 6 players, maybe we can garner 2 or 3 late-round draft picks. Maybe Gerald Everett could get us a 5th-round pick. Who knows? Maybe Ryan Bates could get us a 7th. Maybe DeMarcus Walker could get us a 5th-round pick. These are speculative things at this point. Zach Pickens, 2 years left on his contract. Noah Sewell, 2 years left on his contract. Very highly regarded coming out in the draft. 3rd-round pick. And now I'm not saying the Bears are going to cut Zach Pickens, as you guys know. This is a speculative thing with where the Bears need their defensive line to be and need it to improve. He just flat out has not cut the mustard, and we want to build a championship caliber team. Will we cut Zach Pickens? Probably not. I mean, that's just we're probably not going to cut him. I'm just showing options here of what the Bears could do and the most realistic ones. The ones saying Kevin Byard, that's not going to happen. When you're one of the top safeties in the league and you're as cheap as he is for us, it's just not. It doesn't matter how much you can save towards the salary cap. It's going to cost so much money to be able to go out and sign a number one safety in the league. So probably not going to happen. But here we stand with these guys, with everything. So let me roll through here. I know this is kind of rolling fast. Sorry about that, guys. So here's running back. Whether we need one as a priority, as a starter, I don't know yet. We'll see what Ben Johnson thinks about, the rotation. He did say he likes the running backs we have on this roster. He did say that. So DeAndre Swift, Roschon Johnson, Ian Wheeler. Maybe he wants to draft Ashton Jeanty. I don't know. We'll find out. But there's a green spot for us. We do need another running back. We got rid of Khalil Herbert. Wide receivers, if we don't re-sign Keenan Allen, we need another wide receiver 3. Tyler Scott is not a wide receiver 3 right now. Maybe he wants to use him as one, but we definitely need some depth here at least. So we need 2 wide receivers here that would be able to come in and be quality. You can find some cheaper options. Maybe Colin Johnson finally gets his shot with the Bears. Maybe we draft 2 of them with this class that's having some good showouts at the Shrine Bowl and at the Senior Bowl. Maybe that will be an option for them. If we cut Gerald Everett, we definitely need a tight end 2. 12 personnel sets are important, and it will definitely be needed to be able to have quality. And will they cut Gerald Everett? I don't know. Who knows? This is just speculation stuff. But these are kind of, if I'm the GM in this role, what would I do? I might cut Gerald Everett. I might, if I go this route of getting a good pass blocking, run blocking tight end like Luke Farrell, who's very above average in the league, and do that. Now, if I'm the Bears and I'm looking at the offensive line, I know this is going to be the most controversial thing of this video. A lot of you are not going to like this, but we're so decimated on this offensive line. I'm taking the value of Coleman Shelton because if you don't and you go sign Drew Dahlman for $12 million, it's going to limit whether you can get a Tevin Jenkins for 12 or a Trey Smith for 22. It's going to limit someone somewhere. Even with all these moves I've made, you can see we have $8 million left, and that's before you sign the final extra guys. You're going to have 3 or 4 league minimum, and there needs to be a buffer, and then you've still got to account for rookie and practice squad, which this is all included in there. See, this includes everything. Your top 51 against the salary cap, against the Deadpool, the new Deadpool editions, rookie cap, everything. All of that's included within there, okay? So that's what it leaves us with, Les, but you've got to have some buffer cap. So some of these undrafted free agents, we're going to sign a bonus for them to come onto the roster on the 90-man roster. Maybe one of them will beat someone out, and you can trim things down later. But this is right around the range where you need to have it as you head into the draft, after the draft, after you've got your rookie pool and your practice squad, you've got to have this rough amount of money. So it's not like everyone thinks we have an exponentially amount of money to spend. We don't. But if we do this, it shores up at least a good base for our offensive line. Then you can go after 3. And I'm not saying go 5th, 6th, 7th rounders. Take a center in the 2nd, 3rd round. Take a guard in the 1st, 2nd round, depending on the right one. If he can start above Tevin Jenkins, great. It doesn't kill you to have a $12 million contract for one of the best guards. You could end up trading him later. I mean, there's options here. If the right guy fell to us at 1, I'm saying if we traded down too, by the way. If we traded down and the right guy fell to us at 1, fantastic. Swing tackle, another important option. That I probably would take with Braxton Jones. I probably would take that in the 4th, 5th-ish round to find a good swing tackle to continue to compete. Remember, Karan Amagaji was taken as that developmental guy. I understand we're upset at his year 1 results, but at the end of the day, he's still developmental. So he's going to compete, and then you bring another one in to compete, and you've got a couple of good options there to compete. Probably still want to. Maybe this guy is a guy that we bring in at the end of free agency with that $8 million buffer, and we say, hey, we want a Trent Brown to have someone that's more reliable. Yes, he's coming off a serious injury, so I get that. But someone who's been very dependable and very highly ranked, I guess is a better way to say it. Maybe we want to sign someone like that. We're not going to go after an Alaric Jackson. So many people wanted Alaric Jackson. We're not going to replace Braxton Jones just to pay Alaric Jackson $20 million a year and kill our salary cap. That's not going to happen. The more realistic take is 2026 if Braxton doesn't pan out to be a top 10 left tackle in the league, which probably won't be. Let him walk out the door, sign somewhere with someone for $15, $20 million, Hopefully we get a comp pick for that, and then we draft someone in the 2026 draft, or Karan develops, or our new swing tackle develops. There's options there, but this is not a 2025 dilemma to be in. This is not something that we have to panic about today. Defensive line, we need a stronger defensive line. We need a better run defense. We need better pressure. Khalil Mack would help that, and at his value, he's going to be projected somewhere around $13 million. At that value, that's worth bringing in at his age. He's not, crippled grandpa that can't get out of bed. He's still got some juice left in the tank, and coming back to Chicago would be fun to see him in that role. So maybe a couple-year deal here, $13 million a year. You still want to get a nose tackle, which we are severely lacking. I know some of you love Big Bill. He takes up the double teams, but he doesn't break through them. He gets some good pressure, but he's a solid rotational defensive tackle. That's what he's for. If you can get a Deion Walker or a Tyleik Williams in this draft to start at nose tackle, if you could have taken Devondre Sweat last year, you would have done it. And it's about time the Bears get serious with that. So this needs to be a priority because this is a true backup in the league. And his contract reflects that, and he's coming to the end of that contract. You're not starting Andrew Billings will probably be one of the biggest frustrations for me personally this year, even though I know 90% of you Bears fans probably don't feel the same way I do. We need another solid defensive end, and that would be in this draft, in my opinion, then another defensive tackle that can be behind Gervon Dexter to really – that's what Zach Pickens was supposed to be. Another solid option to rotate there, and we don't have it. So Daniel Hardy is on a league minimum exclusive right free agent deal. So with how he did last year and his tackle ability, his average depth of tackle, his pressure rates he got, I think he was misused last year. I really do. I think they should have used him more, and I think he'll get more of an opportunity this year, and I don't think there's any way they don't retain him. And this is just another depth piece that we find, and maybe that is Zach Pickens. Maybe we don't cut him. So there we go with that. If we do go ahead and cut Noah Sewell, we need a couple backup options here. I'm retaining Jack Sanborn on a restricted free agent where we match an offer for him, somewhere $4 or $5 million probably for a couple years. Same type of thing that happened with Ryan Bates with the Bills. We've said this before. The Bears offered a deal on Ryan Bates. He was a restricted free agent. They matched that offer. They kept him. Jack Sanborn, same type of thing. Different player, obviously, different position, different skill set, different quality, in my opinion. Jack Sanborn is someone I would love to see get opportunity at middle linebacker. I would love to see that with him. And Tremaine Edmonds, more of a Mike, an outside linebacker, plays more coverage, and I think that's what he should be. But we'll see what the Bears do. I mean, there's a lot of things. That's not what this is about. So a couple linebackers here is one Amen Ogbongbemiga, who played very, very well for us. I mean, it really did. Special teams, and when he was in the game, looked really good. So there's some options there. Then here's our secondary. Jalen Jones, Josh Blackwell, both exclusive right free agents. Go ahead and sign them for their minimums. Well, for whatever we have to match them at. And I would absolutely do that with both of them. Josh Blackwell, the backup nickel behind Kyler Gordon. And I do think Kyler Gordon will get an extension. Part of that $8 million that's left could go towards him with a couple million this year to extend him, and then $13 million on average from here on out. Make him feel good. And it's always good to do that with current guys in the locker room that are outperforming their level at coming to the end of their contract. It's always good to do that. Tyreek Stevenson would be, another guy for next year that's like that. Terrell Smith, if he can stay healthy, if he gets more opportunities. So there's opportunity but this is the kind of the most shored up spot in my opinion. Maybe we don't retain Jalen Jones, and there's a cornerback in the draft we really like. These are all the decisions that'll happen as we get to free agent, but these are some of my projections of where we stand right now and guys that I like on the roster. Long snapper's not a big deal. Scott Dowley is kind of the cheaper option with his experience level, and he did a fine job last year filling in. So it's a cheaper option there to fill in for a minimum contract. So I'm good with Scott Dowley there. But that's where this leaves us with $8.253 million when you take into consideration, probably a Tyreek Stevenson, a Kyler Gordon extension being part of that, having to sign minimum contracts after the draft. Because look, we're at 39. We need to get to 14 more contracts to get to 53, and right now we have roughly 9 if the comp pick happens. And this asterisk right here, this asterisk just means that these things aren't set yet. Ian Cunningham hasn't taken a job. These are all picks that we have. That's picks that we have, but the order isn't set until we know all the comp picks that are divvied out, that are given to teams. And this is where the Rooney Rule for if Ian Cunningham left, that's where his comp pick would be right before the Niners at 99. Right now, the Niners are slotted into 99 because they already have some from previous years. We would go before them because we're a pick above them. We ended up with the worst overall, draft pick, or better, depending on how you look at that. But this is what it would look like. We would have Jalen Jones resign, Josh Blackwell, Coleman Shelton, Scott Daly, Jack Sanborn, Daniel Hardy, Bill Murray, who I think is worth continuing to develop really high grades last year when he did play. Tevin Jenkins re-signing on that value contract, which is what he's projected to be at now, both PFF and Spotrac. Trey Smith overpaying, making him the highest paid guard in the league and being worth it at his age and his continued consistent production, how he's done. Khalil Mack coming back to Chicago and Luke Farrell. And then this is what it would leave us with needing in the draft. So a starter at nose tackle. That's our one, clear-cut need starter. That would be a high priority. And I would really like to go after like Tyleek Williams or Deion Walker. That would be, or you could look at the Michigan nose tackle, Kenneth Grant, or you could look at, there's several good nose tackles here at the top of the draft. Defensive end, guard, centers, these could be starters or rotational guys. If you're looking at, center, he might need to be boosted up into the second. If this is the scenario we fall into, you might be looking and saying, center is a priority because we're not really comfortable with Coleman Shelton as the top. So maybe we need to, stretch here at the top of the second at pick 39 or pick 41. And maybe we need to take one of these guys that are outperforming in the Senior Bowl or in all these practices, and is combined with their stats from college. Gray Zabel, maybe he's worth taking this high. Maybe one of these guys is worth taking that high. Maybe you move him up a little bit, but this is kind of where I have these guys. In fact, I should change that one to be right in the same classification as the other ones. So these are going to be your ones that you're going to want to look at the top of the draft. Your guard, center, defensive end, nose tackle. That's going to be your priority here. Your other, because we filled in some of those spots on some of the other ones here, you got Khalil Mack, defensive end. We don't have to hit defensive end as hard, but it's still a high priority to have, as a rotational guy, because your defensive players rotate more than any other position on the field, more than your offensive line, more than, anyone. Your defensive ends, your nose tackles, your three-tech, they're going to rotate in constantly throughout the game. Fresh legs. Some of them stay out there longer than others. Montez Sweat takes 70% of snaps. Jervon Dexter's taking 70% of snaps, so they're not coming out as much. But out of any positional group, these guys rotate more than anyone. So it's important to get this right. And you see last year how poor we were at that position. It really led to us being one of the worst run defensive teams and not getting pressure to help everything out on defense. So priority one, yes, protecting Caleb, but we've kind of done that here. Getting Trey Smith, getting Tevin Jenkins, Coleman Shelton. We still need to short up. I'm not saying we don't. I'm saying right here, first, second round picks need to be center and guard. And this is why I like the idea of trading down from here. Say we trade down from 110 to 118 and we pick up 253, and it's not the same formatting. It's just a pet peeve of mine if it's not looking the same. 253 and say 120, that really helps out significantly to be able to say, okay, now these 4 that we need, right now we only have 3 first, second round picks. If we have an extra second round pick, now all of a sudden we can fill nose tackle, defensive end, guard, and center with picks 118, 239, 241, 253. Got to have 2 to tango. You got to have another team that wants to do that dance with you. I get that, but it gives really good options if we can. That's the huge reason I want to trade down from there. And I know some people are like, oh, Adam, trade down Mason, and always wanting to trade down. Well, with the needs we have, you're not seeing any nose tackles go off the board. Unless Mason Graham somehow fell to us and he can fill in at both nose tackle. He is the nose tackle. He's the guy that stuffs things and the guy that can shed blocks and the guy that can get. Unless he falls to you, you're taking him at 1. I don't see Mason Graham falling to us, but if he does, do it in a heartbeat. Then we figure out the rest from there. Maybe we could trade in somehow. We can trade up from the third round pick or our comp pick and trade up into the second round if we need to focus on one of these guys that we want to get a really quality pick with. There's options. Things can happen. These things can happen. So this is where we would stand with needs left, though. By the time the draft's done, say we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the 9 right now. Say we pick up an extra one, we get 10 of them. We need to sign 2 more in free agency after that. That happens all the time, and then you get your undrafted free agents, which you don't want to have to be your priority guys. But say we go pick up an Amen Ogbongbemiga afterwards, and say we sign Colin Johnson. Not the worst option for a 5 and a linebacker 5. We have those 2 guys, and then that's going to cut into the salary cap a little bit more. That'll cost at least a couple million. Then you're down to $6 or $5 million. And this gives you a clear picture of how the salary cap really works. Gives you a clear picture of where the team could head with that. So hopefully this helps a little bit to see those things, to see some of the understanding of how the salary cap works and really where this team stands with things. Nothing's going to be more important than the re-signings we have and free agency, and then we'll get a clear picture of what these needs will be. And obviously I'll update this and I'll show you guys, and we'll see what happens. This is my hypothetical, how it would work, but we'll update it with what's real, what really happens, who fits some of these key spots, these blue spots, if it's Scott Dowley, if it's Jalen Jones, Josh Blackwell. And I'll update this as we go throughout the offseason. This will be important. This will be the best understanding you get of the salary cap, hands down. I'm not trying to be arrogant, but this will be the best place for you to come to see an understanding of the salary cap, how it works, where we really stand, and what's really happening as things go along. This is one of the things that I don't know, my accounting background, where I kind of get irritated with people thinking the salary cap means something different than it does. This is why I try to show you guys these types of things. So I'll update this as we go throughout, and this will be the best place for you to get a clear representation of where the salary cap really stands and where this team really stands in regard to the salary cap and how it works moving forward from here. I think when people hear, last thing, I know we're creeped right up on that hour, so apologize, guys, but hopefully this is beneficial. Hopefully you learn something from this and enjoy it and appreciate it, because I don't think a lot of people realize when you get those couple of orange ones that are bigger, you get those couple ones right there, and then you get all those blue ones who are incredibly important to sign. Having a center, having Jack Sanborn retain, having Tevin Jenkins, those type of scenarios. Maybe you don't want Tevin Jenkins, and maybe we go with Drew Dalman instead. And then you're picking a guard, or not Coleman Shelton, and then you're picking a guard at the top of the draft. It just reshifts your orders. But either way you shift those, it doesn't change the fact that down here at the bottom, all these, that it doesn't really leave a spot for that Ashton Jeanty type of pick. You've really got to believe that he is the next Barry Sanders to be able to put him above the needs of your nose tackle and defensive end and guard and center, swing tackle, tight end. You've really got to believe that he is absolutely, and I don't fall into that category of believing that he is the best thing that's ever happened to. And I know some of you will disagree, and you won't have the same opinion as me. But we have DeAndre Swift, and we have other options. So, and it's such a loaded running back class. It really is. I mean, where I would fit one of them into these scenarios where you're taking one of those top 4 picks with a running back is if you've already taken your nose tackle and your guard and your defensive end, and you picked up that extra pick, 253, instead of taking center there, you're good with Coleman Shelton, and you can take a center in the 3rd round. And you say Omarion Hampton fell to 253. We're scooping him up no matter what. Many places have Omarion Hampton in the 1st round, so I would 100% be okay with that. But this gives a little more basis and understanding why I'm saying this does not make sense, why people think it's okay to take Ashton Jeanty. When we have roughly $55 million in cap space, when you take away the rookie pool, you take away the practice squad, you take away the re-signings we have to do, it's not like we have all but 3 spots filled on this roster. We have a lot of holes on this roster. Look at all those S's and R's down that side right there. A lot of starters, a lot of reserve, a lot of rotational guys that we need to have filled on this roster. We're not one player away. If this roster kills it next year and we've retained really well, we probably need to hit the secondary really hard. Then you can take some of those positional, players, the wide receivers, the running backs, those players in round 1, because we have the basis of this entire roster built. So anyways, there's a lot that goes into that. I will update this as we go along, though. I do appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, thank you. We're right there at the 10,000. I am going to start a membership thing, and it's going to involve a lot of things dealing with the salary cap and the draft. There's not going to be a lot of perks at this point, and I'm not asking anybody to have to do that. But if you do decide to, what it's doing right now is it's basically just going to support the channel, help me get to a next level on this as we continue to grow. Don't feel obligated. That's not at all what I'm trying to do. But if you can, every one of you, hit the like button, subscribe, share it with your friends. It does help get this out, and I think there's a unique perspective here with this channel that I can share, and then we can continue to grow this channel. It's a baby. It's a year old, but we're getting somewhere. Thank you for tuning in for the salary cap roster construction special. We'll continue to do the mock drafts. Things are coming along. We've hit the end of January already. Holy freaking crap. We've already hit the end of January. February is here before you know it, tomorrow. March is here, then free agency, then all the signings, and away we go. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Till next time, da Bears, and bear down.